Data Week Zoom sessions. My name is Lin Zhai. I am from OEE, Office of Educational Effectiveness, and I'm the facilitator for this session. And during the session, please feel free to share questions or comments in the chat at any time. And later today, you will receive a survey from us, and we would love to hear your feedback. We also hope you will join us for the remaining sessions today and also for our in-person open house tomorrow. This session is presented by Monique Lopez-Walters from DoIT, Division of Information Technology. Without further ado, now I'll turn it over to Monique.
Hi everyone. As Lynn said, I'm Monique. I work in DoIT. I began here in October. Actually, sorry, September. But I am a Stony Brook alum. I did my undergrad and my graduate work at Stony Brook. So I've been a part of the Stony Brook family for a long time. So I really do feel like I'm at home. So I'm going to be talking to you about a new pilot experience that we have. We're going to be looking to start a credentialing or like mini badge system within DoIT. These opportunities exist in other areas around the campus, like the Career Center and CELT. So we wanted to start to give students, faculty, and staff an opportunity to advance their skills within specifically IT structures. So this badge, it's Love Data Week. So we know that data supports learning, research, and decision making across campus. So if we can contribute to just increasing the knowledge of surveys, the knowledge of data collection in this way, then across the board from all of the stakeholders, I believe that we can, start to create sorry, my puppy, experiences for students that are beneficial. So this badge, it's open to all staff, faculty, and students. It started off sort of to be for students. And then in meeting with some of my colleagues who I was informed use Qualtrics, they kind of were like, I would love this for me, or I'd love this for my staff. So we decided to open it up to staff and faculty also. And I'll let you know some of the ways that the course can be differentiated, but depending on who is going to be taking it. So it's evidence-based in that we use high interest and project-based learning incorporated into the course. So it's going to be different than what you're going to do on the Qualtrics site, the kind of the built-in training there. And once again, I'll show you what that's going to look like. And then it helps with the career path. So students, especially that don't have a lot of work experience, acquiring micro-credentials and badges is a good way to kind of beef up their resume, to make up for some of the lack of experience, employment experience that they tend to not have. So we're using Qualtrics. Our campus has Core XM. There are a lot of different versions of Qualtrics that do many things, but we kind of have a more basic use for it. But there's still so much that we could do. So we're gonna talk about some of that. So our mission is to improve a real experience. So anyone that's taking the course is going to have the actual real life mission of improving a real experience for someone on campus. It could be a student, but it could also be a staff member. So we're going to deal every module, and we'll go over that, is going to have a content goal. So we're going to be dealing with kind of how to collect information, journey mapping and personas is the content in which we're going to be exploring Qualtrics. And then every module will also have a technical goal. So it's those things are going on simultaneously. So once again, you're not just kind of doing that basic training that you could get from the vendor website, but you're applying the skills through this context and this real life application. I meant to say, if anyone ever wants to stop me with questions or anything, feel free. So by the end of this course, students would have built a complete Qualtrics project that addresses a specific user need. So each module builds upon the one before. So with each module, there's an artifact that is required for you to produce by the end of the module, and all of those basically go towards building the same survey. So there are separate learning activities, but there's always going to be an artifact in the end that is adding on to that kind of final project survey that's being created for the entire course. So, we're allowing for different pathways, and this is going to address what I discussed before, that there are faculty, there's students, right? So there's students who might be interested in the course because they are, psych majors and they're going to be using Qualtrics in their research. But there could also be students who maybe are preparing, are getting a business degree and they want this on their resume for when applying for the private sector. So they're going to go into it with more of a business mind frame, marketing, user experience, things like that. And then we have staff members who might be interested in it. So that's going to be like the student affairs, operations, um, pathway, and then just a more general student staff, just dealing with any experience on campus that they want to tackle. So by giving these different pathways and contexts, it allows users to complete the course in a way that is meaningful to them and not generic. So, the first thing we're going to talk about, or we're going to go into personas, and the whole journey mapping. But basically, we're going to deal with the fact that good data starts with a clear target. So by defining exactly who we want to target, it's going to help us be more specific on our approach, and we'll see how that plays out. So we're going to deal with the persona, and we're going to deal with trying to identify the moment that matters or moments that matter. Many of our negative experiences with companies, with businesses, with universities, whatever it might be, all boils down to maybe one bad moment, one bad experience, and we kind of, it defines our whole experience with that company. So if we can identify those moments and avoid any negative ones, increase the positive ones, then that's going to be better for everyone. So once we identify who we want to be, which pathway we want to take, and which persona we want to target, then the modules are gonna walk you through building a survey and best practices. So once again, we're gonna be dealing with, how many questions are good, how long, how to write a good question, um, as well as the technical skills that it takes to navigate through Qualtrics to build the surveys that you need. And then lastly, so you're going to be going through and deciding how would you like to present the data? Is it going to look better on, a more formal, detailed, static report based off of the stakeholders that you might be presenting to, or is an ongoing dashboard that updates itself better, so and then you're going to have to decide the rationale. So there's decisions to be made through this, which is going to increase the level of engagement because there actually is autonomy over the project. So everyone's not going to have this, like everyone who completes this course is going to have something that looks completely different. And so it's really going to cater to their interest and their needs. Um, and then lastly, once we identify a moment that matters, then there's going to be a pitch where we can identify three realistic steps or improvements. And one of the key things is defining who owns it, right? So once we find that moment that matters, or a moment of friction or a pain point, we have to decide who owns this, who is involved in the operations, either front end or back end, that affects this moment or this experience, and um, how can we change our procedures or operations or whatever to make things better? And how are we going to measure it? So how are we going to define success? So if it's printing, is it that students are able to print a paper in, 5 minutes less time, after the changes are implemented. So it's a specific goal that's named and quantified. So the rubric or how it's assessed is based off of the journey and persona design, the survey quality, adding all the technical implementations, which is going to be guided throughout, um, reporting, and the action items. So everything is that you're being graded on is something that you would do naturally in this real life scenario. It's not something that you're just producing for the sake of this course. And then lastly, you'll have this final product. We're dealing with making sure everyone is aware of accessibility standards because they do apply to Qualtrics. There are questions that are considered accessible and questions that are not. So that's also something that if you already are used to using Qualtrics, it might be worth exploring that a little bit just to make sure that we're adhering to the guidelines. Are there any questions? Just out of curiosity, is this something that anyone feels that they would be interested in either partaking in or participating in developing further? Yeah, so that's kind of the purpose of this. I do want to present it to you, but to be honest, at this point in my journey, I haven't had, I don't have a lot of authentic opportunities to use Qualtrics. So I really am going to be leaning on hopefully a team of people who are interested. And, what better place to be than people who are attending Love Data Week sessions, that might want to be involved. And, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? So, for instance, I met with someone from Salt who uses Qualtrics, and they informed me that my whole thing was all data dashboard heavy, and they're like, I actually don't use dashboards, so that was good to know because I would just assume that like the fancy modern, dashboard would be a go-to. So that real life hands-on experience that I could probably gain from all of you would be much appreciated. So if
Yeah, and
yeah,
Monique, sorry for
yes, please.
interjecting. So, and since you are also part of the QDA group, the Qualtrics Data Alchemist group, so I think that's something that I think in our next meeting, which will be exactly in a month, and if you feel like, talking about this project, for, take a couple minutes, share with the rest of the group members, that would be great. I'm sure a lot of people will be very ex interested in this and then excited. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in I don't fake it till I make it. I'm willing to admit what, so where my strength is the instructional design. So building it, like so you tell me what is important, what people should know, what's useful, then I can take that and make it happen. So that partnership is what I'm looking for. So just to chat a little bit about what it might look like about, there's tons of ways to collect data. There's tons of methodology, obviously, of creating surveys and things like that. But I did decide, I attended a Qualtrics conference, which was super interesting, super like Gen Z. It was the first time I felt like truly old. Like it was like dark lighting. We were in like a bar. I was like, I'm officially old. Like they're playing Mariah Carey as like the oldies but goodies. Like Mariah Carey was like the elevator music, and I'm like, oh, okay. So um, it was definitely an interesting experience, but they explored the whole everything through journey mapping, and I just felt like it's just a really good way to get this full picture of someone's experience, and to find in an efficient way to find areas of weakness that could, sometimes it's a very easy fix that could really make such a huge difference. So, and we'll take a look at that. So why create a persona? So creating a persona helps to create empathy. So we shift the perspective from university process to student experience. Often it is difficult for us to kind of remove ourselves from being a student or being the new person. Are we using acronyms? Are we saying things like, oh, it's over at Melville, and like, what's Melville to someone who, doesn't know the campus? Um, so instead of, sometimes we have these nice processes on paper, but this is going to help us to lift it from the paper and see what it looks like from the student perspective. Um, Creating a persona helps us focus, so we can't tackle everything at once. We can't, do everything all at once. So this kind of helps give it a nice focus so we can figure out how to target some problem areas better. And then a reality check. So it will challenge our assumptions sometimes if we, complete a survey and we realize, oh, wow, like students really had this negative experience and something that could have been very seamless, if they just knew X, Y, and Z. So the key components of a persona, so a lot of times when we think persona, we kind of keep it in the demographics area. Um, so name, year, so maybe we're talking about a freshman, their major, maybe their background. So this is kind of a lot of times where we end the conversation when we're talking about personas. But a persona is actually should be more detailed than that. So what is this person's goals? What are they trying to achieve? What is important to them? What are their frustrations? And what's a quote that could summarize, how they feel? So for this student, I think we all agree, I just want to get through the day without any hassles, right? Like if you could get through a day without a hassle, that's a good day. So we'll look at a journey. So this is our example persona. His name is Alex. Alex is a transfer student. As far as tech goes, he's heavy on his phone. Um, his goal, because he's a transfer student, is to validate his credits quickly. So he's very concerned that his previous coursework is not compatible. So that is adding fear to his experience, and he's a little bit confused navigating all of the portals. And his quote is, "I just need to know if I'm on track to graduate." So how can having a persona in mind, how do you think that might change how you create questions for your survey? Or maybe it doesn't. Any thoughts?
So I think maybe when we design a survey, if the student, we know how sensitive they may feel towards, you know, being able to be on track to graduate or very kind of anxious about, academic work, then maybe when we freeze sentences, the wording we use, we could choose more. Um, I guess language that doesn't make him feel more nervous. So maybe be
Hmm.
careful on choosing the wording.
Probably less technical and more
Yes.
personal or,
Yeah.
friendly language.
And then
Definitely.
also mobile heavy, so maybe we need to make sure the Qualtrics survey will show up on the mobile view. It's nice and accessible.
Exactly. Thank you. All right. So we've dealt with what a persona is, so now we're going to deal with the journey map. So this journey map would trace Alex's journey through the new student orientation process. So we're going to think about all of the touch points that are going to happen from that journey. So what are some things that, some touch points, some experiences that he's going to have as a transfer student beginning of the semester?
Sorry, what was the question? Could you repeat the question again?
So, like, what are some experiences that he's going to have? on his journey, let's say from, well, you know what, this will probably clarify. So from the start of his journey is going to be the acceptance deposit paid. So from the time he accepts his deposit to the first day of class, what small experiences is he going to have along the way?
He's going to have
Maybe
to sign up for orientation.
Mm-hmm.
choose
He's gonna,
major, take courses,
yeah, so
and
these
register.
are all exactly. So these are all different touch points, right? So these are all things that we would look at. These are all opportunities to either give him a positive experience or a negative experience. Was someone saying something? Okay. All right. So we're only gonna map his experiences also. So there might be other experiences that other students might experience, but we're only gonna deal with his specific ones. So all the touch points, there are some that are on stage, so these are visible to Alex. So the welcome email he receives when he first logs into Brightspace for the first time and has to navigate his course, his advisor Zoom call. And then there's things that are invisible that are happening off stage, but they still affect him even if he doesn't know it. So the registrar manually entering him or the IT system putting him in the system. So it could be something so simple like a button that wasn't clicked, right? But he's locked out of everything. He can't access everything for a day, right? So all these little touch points, whether they're visible to him or not, they are affecting his experience along the way. So this is a moment of friction. So in this, we identify moments of friction and actually positive things because if people are having positive experiences, we want to recreate that, we want to emulate that, and then we want to fix the negative ones. So a little spot of friction for him is when he attempts to register. He gets this message that there's a hold on his account. Um, because of everything that's riding on him, because of the fear he has about not making the right decision to transfer, all of that, if we are just dealing with kind of student data without the persona, oh, a little technical error has occurred. But when we're dealing with the persona, we can say this was an emotional barrier for him. Um, and because we identified that moment of friction, we can identify a solution. So now there'll be an automated message 24 hours prior to registration that will remind Alex of any holds or any paperwork that he has to do. So by going through this journey process, we were able to identify this very, simple fix for something that had a very negative effect on him. And then lastly, the big moment, the moment that matters to him because of his number one concern, is meeting with the transfer advisor, and he confirms that he is on time to graduate. So this is going to strongly influence whether he feels prepared, and confident moving forward. Um, so designing the survey, the generic question, maybe if we're not thinking about Alex, how was the advisor? The persona-driven question, did the advising session clarify how your previous credits apply to your new degree? So because we have a specific student in mind, we're able to pinpoint the exact need that we're looking to fulfill. So our key takeaways is we're going to define the who, we're going to map their journey, what are the touch points along the way. We're going to find the friction, what are the pain points and the high points, as I said, so that we could emulate them. And then we're going to make sure to ask the right questions. We're going to build surveys that solve specific problems. So in this case, the persona dictates the question. So does anyone have any questions about that? All right, so I figured we'd do a little activity, a little practice. Um, so we're gonna deal with a campus experience of printing a paper. So think of a persona. So you can give someone a name, but give them like a um an adjective. So like procrastinating Pete. Um, what's he trying to do? He's trying to print paper. What are three steps along the way? And what's something that could go wrong and what's a question we might want to ask procrastinating Pete. So for sake of time, we can all just deal with Pete and tell me, what are some things that could go right or wrong along the way of him trying to get this task complete.
Maybe the laptop is not connected to the printer. Um, Printer's out of paper or out of ink. But I don't know if that's so are we brainstorming all
Yeah,
potential
yeah.
fails and successes? Interesting.
Maybe there's a lot of students that need to do the same thing.
Maybe there's a long line that he's not aware of. Julie said in the chat he can't find the printer. Does he know how to access it? So these are things that we pinpoint along the way, we'd identify, and what might be a question that we could ask him if we wanted to figure out, how we were doing with our printing experience across campus.
Has he printed at this location before?
Good, yeah.
And how was his experience printing his at this location? Yeah.
And don't they only get a certain amount of pages they can print? Does he have pages left to print what he needs to print?
hmm how long the process is. So like Pete likes to procrastinate, so maybe he's concerned with how long the process is because he's not giving himself that cushion. So maybe developing a question specifically for this persona, we're going to deal with time and things that affect the timing of it. So that was just like a little, activity to walk through what it would look like. But more or less, it's just, I'm hoping that it really guides you step by step, and that it will be a useful experience. Students specifically on interviews, instead of saying, I have this badge in Qualtrics, they could say, this was a problem that I decided to tackle on my campus. And, these were the actionable items that we decided to target. And, that conversation is a lot different. And it's framed in the terms of an experience rather than just a list of something that you know how to use. So if there's any questions, comments, suggestions, I'll send up in a follow-up interest survey if anyone's interested in participating in either providing feedback, providing suggestions, or even piloting the course.
Yeah, I really like this whole model and then the idea of creating personas and having pathways for learners to choose from. So it really highly tailors to learners' needs and definitely gives them great autonomy. And I think this requires a lot of work. So already kudos
Yes.
to you for putting even the presentation together. There's a lot of information.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Do we have a questions? No, and then definitely, at our next Qualtrics Data Alchemist group, we would love for you to, share this and let's keep in touch to talk
Perfect.
about that pilot. We're very interested in how this goes. Thank you so much for your great
Thank
work, Monique.
you. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. And thank you everyone for coming to Monique's presentation and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And then we still have a few sessions left for the day, so stay tuned. All right.
All
Have
right.
a good
Thank
day,
you. You
everyone.
too.
Bye.
Good job, Monique. Good job.
Thanks, honey.